Hi everyone, my name is Anastasios Arima. I'm the CEO and co-founder of IperionX. And here at IperionX, we're looking at developing US-based critical materials, really focused in on titanium, zircon, and of course, rare earths. And we're looking to do everything sustainably and reshore those critical materials here in the US.
Taso, thanks for coming back on board. I think we had a sort of technical session with you back in January, February. Quite enjoyed that. I just want to catch up with regards to what you're up to, but more importantly, what's going on in the market at the moment, because lots of conversations going on about US critical minerals lists and people trying to shore up their supply chain, etc. And you've been in the thick of it, talking to a lot of people. So wouldn't mind an update on that front from you. So, what are you up to at the moment? What are you kind of focused on? Because we've got a Nasdaq listing happening sometime in the future. We've got permits, we've got scoping studies. So, what's keeping you awake at night?
Yeah, so we're getting a lot of progressing a lot of things here at IperionX. As you said, the US listing and completing our scoping study, and then some test work that we've got to do. But really, we've been out there, especially in this sort of market, talking with potential customers around the products that we intend to deliver in the future. US-based products, more sustainable products to customers here in the US and also in other Western world jurisdictions, but mainly here in the US. Right now, what we're seeing in the market is a big focus on some of the key critical minerals that are needed for electric vehicles, for renewable power, for defense. And this has been on the agenda over the last few years, as everybody knows, with electric vehicles and what's happening there. But it's become of increasing importance to government and also potential strategic offtake partners, users of these critical minerals, because of what's been going on geopolitically in the world, especially around Ukraine and Russia.
Right. Well, talk to me about the conversations you're having, because you've got two bits of the business. You've got the minerals and you've got the metals, right? So yeah. Let's go with the West Tennessee conversation first. So you're talking to who at the moment? Is it customers? Are you talking contracts? Are you just talking theory? I mean, what are they trying to work out about
mainly
you?
Customers.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so definitely mainly customers. So customers are offtake partners are very interested both in the paint and pigment supply chain, in the electric vehicle supply chain for rare earths, in the ceramic supply chain. We focus on titanium and zircon, but we also have a significant endowment of rare earths. As we've announced, we have monazite and xenotime, so we have both the light and the heavy rare earths. So we aren't just the light rare earths, the neodymium and praseodymium, with dysprosium and terbium, which is needed in the defense industry for some of the magnets that are used in missiles and aeroplanes and submarines and those sort of things for the military. So we've been approached across all those fronts by various different potential strategic offtake partners and players in the space, whether it be trading houses or the like. And so what we've seen is there's been a lot of talk about US critical minerals and shoring it up here, but with Russia and with the Russian-Ukrainian situation, we've seen a huge, more of a importance put on seeing where these customers, both from their own supply chains being disrupted, but also knowing that this is something that the government is going to push, trying to look for US-based minerals. So on top of everybody wanting to be sustainable, wanting to source from America, there's actually a need to do it, because when Russia invaded Ukraine, it pretty much chopped off 7% of global supply of titanium minerals, and out of that, 14% of global supply of rutile, which is the high quality titanium minerals. And I think people became very much more conscious again about what Russia and eventually China could do if China was to do something in the South China Sea, as to what would happen to our supply chains. And so there's been a big focus by, obviously, you've heard a lot of it from the White House, but also from customers about, so where can we get these minerals from? And us being right there with titanium, zircon, and rare earths, we're seeing a lot of those inbounds into our company. So we're very focused on progressing our project, getting our scoping study out in the near term, because that I think will bring even more inbounds in. But it's definitely something on all the customers and offtake partners' minds around, you know, what we're doing, when we can get into production, how much we can produce. All the key questions that a lot of people get from us.
That's what I want to talk to you about, Taso, because like, it's not a case of, you know, the market has had this product removed from the market. It's just going to flow a different direction. And, you know, what happens to the pricing is another matter. Who the buyers are is another matter, right? I'm interested in you and what you're doing to prepare yourself. Like you're going to tell me, you have told me in the past, you're going to tell me in the future, and maybe we want to touch upon it now in terms of your ability to get into production by 2024. Okay, and that's fine. And let's take that as read. I want to know is, how do you position yourself, given what you're saying about, you know, US critical minerals lists and, you know, buy domestic and all of that, to put yourself in the best position as now a US producer to take advantage of that? Because you still, not only do you need to produce, you're going to need to produce efficiently, economically, hopefully lowest quartile producers, so the margins are there, into what size of market with what competition, and, you know, what's the upside for you if you get it right?
Yeah, so a lot of that, a lot of the economics will come out in this scoping study. But what we have going for us is we have excellent infrastructure in West Tennessee, where we are in the critical mineral side of the space. We have access to renewable power at very low cost. So it's only a fraction more than baseload power here in this part of West Tennessee. So we can have a sustainable zero or low carbon product for hardly any more cost, far lower cost than what you would see in other jurisdictions. We have access to the people without needing to build camps and build airports and build all the infrastructure needed to house these large camps. And then we have excellent access to infrastructure to be able to deliver the product at low cost to our customers in the United States. So we're really well poised as a company to deliver into the US market. Now, this is one thing that while we really like the idea of the US listing, because unlike, say, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, people, and both retail and institutional investor, is very interested in companies that can build these supply chains and build them more sustainably and build them in America. And we tick all the boxes for a lot of the investors out there in the US who are seeing what the government wants to do with US critical materials, seeing what the customers are doing, trying to source, you know, low carbon US supplied materials. And I think we offer them an opportunity, once we are listed in the US, to be able to invest in a company which is fulfilling that supply chain gap.
So tell me about the importance of, you're really harking on about the green credentials here, right? So I want to understand that. You've talked in your literature about the crawl process being, you know, in terms of energy consumption and emissions being, you know, hugely environmentally unsustainable. How important are the conversations that you're having with potential customers about offtake? The fact that yours is a greener solution, you know, does that affect your pricing? Does it affect your margins? I know you're going to tell me the scope of studies coming out, but do you know what I mean? They're going to want to know that.
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. I think, you know, you can ask in some cases for a green premium. On the mineral side of the business, where you've got titanium and especially around titanium minerals for the paint and pigment sector, just because of what's happened with Ukraine and Russia, it's more a situation of we actually just need the minerals. And it's a positive to have the sustainability there. It's more of there's desperation because the minerals are just out of the market. The market's been totally shocked. On the rare earth side, because it is going into the electric vehicle supply chain. There is definitely a want. It's a positive, again, to have sustainability, and everybody asks, all the potential offtake partners ask about your sustainability credentials, and we glow on all fronts compared to a lot of other operations out there. That style of mining will have the ability to, or the style of extraction will have the ability to utilize renewable power. But again, they really need those minerals as well. Where we see a lot of the opportunities to talk or sell the green premium, so to speak, is on the titanium metal front, where we're looking to not just reshore titanium metal for the existing supply chain, so into aerospace and defense and medical, but where we're looking to push titanium metal products into traditional aluminum and steel supply chains, especially stainless steel. That's where we're able to get that green premium, so to speak, and be able to get in the door with potential offtake partners and talk about our titanium being more green, more sustainable, being lower cost than traditional titanium products, so they can substitute it out with potential stainless steel and aluminum products. And you'll have to wait to see what our potential markets will be there. We've talked about the markets we want to go for, but some of the first initial players that will come forward with some titanium products. But it is really exciting, and on the minerals front, they really need the minerals. On the metals front, we're disrupting markets, and that sustainability, green premium or green credentials is really what's helping us to disrupt that market. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. But, I love it when people talk about disruption. Because it points to potential for disruption at the moment, right? Because that's slightly further behind than, and I don't want to get the two conflated between the minerals and the metals. So just let's finish up on the mineral side of things, right? Because there's you're waiting permits, right? You're going through a scoping study. You have got some pretty aggressive timelines here about when you want to build and when you expect to be in production. And then there's the matter of, I've got to fund all of the above, right? So can you just kind of quickly whiz us through the timelines as you see them, and what are the factors which lead you to believe that, one, the financing will be there at a rate which works for you? Because I think all markets are being hit. You like everyone else, have come off in the last couple of months. You clearly don't want to be having those conversations, or certainly not agreeing terms right now, but you may want to be having those conversations. So where are you with the delivery of the minerals business? Because we want to see, quick to cash flow. That's what we want to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, the scoping study is really soon, so I don't want to sort of say anything here ahead of that coming out. But we are aggressive. We are, and from my point of view, the market is what the market is today, but we're not looking to finance this operation today. We're finalizing our scoping study. We're then going to go through pre-feasibility and feasibility studies. We are well advanced on a lot of our test work programs, and we'll be giving updates to the market there. And there's some really good updates around there. We believe that, what the general market is doing with all the inflationary pressures today, let's see how that sorts itself out over the next 12 months or so. During that time, we're continuing to de-risk our project. As you said, we'll go through our permitting process, we'll go through our feasibility studies, hopefully get towards the point of being shovel ready. And at that point, we'll be then looking to go into the financing phase and go into final investment decision. But I think what will benefit us is, I just don't see these supply chains correcting themselves anytime soon. You continue to see supply shortfalls in all the markets where we operate. I don't think you're going to have a stop to the Ukraine-Russia situation, and all of a sudden that titanium supply chain just turns itself on again. You've had continued growth as the world gets out of COVID in all the commodities that that we're talking about. And on the titanium and zircon front, you have that coming back. You have the paint and pigment market continue to grow, driven by places like China as they come out of COVID. But even here, you've had paint and pigment pricing go up. And so it's chasing, those markets are chasing more of these feedstocks. So I don't see any of that subsiding anytime soon. I just see those supply chain pressures persisting, getting worse, which hopefully continues to drive prices of our key commodities up over the next 12 months and puts us in a stronger position, fundamentally stronger position to finance this project once we're ready to do that. On the rare earth side, we can continue to see the build out of the electric vehicle sector, yet where are all these rare earths going to come from? You haven't seen any major new operations get up and running. And especially on the US front, you have MP Materials there doing really well, but you haven't got any of the heavies coming out in the US. And so I think time is on our side. Time is going to assist whatever happens with the general market. The fundamentals, I think, are just going to get stronger and more in our favor as we continue to progress this project.
Okay, so time is a kind of component that most people don't kind of factor into their economics when they're modeling these things out. But you hit one kind of key word there at the moment, which is inflation. Inflation is doing a few things. Obviously, it's driving prices up across the board, but it's also changing the behavior of the companies and the boards in terms of how they progress things. Because there's a view that hopefully, inflation will fall away. Or some people say, well, inflation will continue. It's not transitory. It maintains, sustains. The thing that companies are seeing is it's having an immediate impact. We've seen a lot of Q1 numbers come out, and I suspect Q2 numbers will follow suit, where the costs are now showing on the balance sheet. Fuel costs, costs of for hiring people across the board, and we're seeing developers slow down their scoping study process because they don't necessarily want to show a super high figures and lower margins and projects which look good before might now become marginal. So the behavior of these CEOs and board has changed in that regard. They have to have a view of what the future looks like. You've just said, I think our sector the prices will continue to rise. Demand is there. So do you speed up, slow down, or continue as you were in terms of your speed to market, your speed to production? Because that was the original question: is when does this thing get into production?
Yeah. So look, we continue on our timeline. I don't think we've sped up anything since we last talked. We've been progressing very quickly. And I don't think I've changed my view on when we should be coming to market with this, mainly because we want to progress this to being shovel ready as soon as possible, and then we can pull the trigger. But we see those the need for a US project. We are looking to build this project. This is a fairly straightforward project to build. It's not hard rock. It's a mineral sands operation, so it's fairly straightforward. It's fairly low capital when we come out. It's fairly low capital as people will see compared to a lot of other projects. Will we have inflationary pressures on the CapEx side? We will, but at the same time, we are in areas where, again, you see more inflationary pressures when you need to build infrastructure, when you need to spend tons of money building a power plant and bringing power to a site, building a camp, and when you're having to fly expats around. That's where you see more inflationary pressures. Where we're building this operation, although there's inflationary pressures generally, you're still in an area which needs the jobs, but has got all the infrastructure already built. Where we are in West Tennessee used to have a large fossil fuel power station which employed over 1,000 people. That went away a few years ago. You've got a lot of people that are open to working there, and you've got a lot of that infrastructure left behind because it was a major area for infrastructure, for power infrastructure in the region. So we see inflationary pressures, but I don't think it's as bad as remote or typical mining operations on our side. And I think more so for me, it's the demand. We're a US project, we're a potentially highly sustainable project, we're a project which is needed to fill a gap, and I know, or I think that strategic partners are going to want to pay for that, and they're going to want that. And so I think by progressing our project to shovel ready, being able to talk to these groups who need it, like you can't make an EV without the rare earths, you can't make paint without titanium. I think it's going to be there for the financing will be there at terms which are acceptable, or not acceptable, positive for us, when we're ready to build out this operation. As we de-risk the operation, a lot more inbounds will come to our company because of all the factors I said. US project on US soil, producing a low carbon sustainable product. We're in a really, really good position. I can definitely understand if you're in a remote part of the world where it's going to take $1 billion to build a project, you need to build a camp, you've got those inflationary pressures, you're paying $400,000 a year for an expat to fly in, fly out. It's that makes it more difficult. But in our situation, I don't see that being a big issue. And then you have this wave of money coming out of the administration, which has been announced. I think it's over $1 billion now, from things like the DPA, or there's billions of dollars in the DOE loan program office to assist in building these supply chains. So although yes, we have these inflationary pressures which we got to be cognizant of, and we got to try and manage, I think for us as a US potential project where the US is pushing to reshore their supply chains, we're in a really good spot. Okay. I think.
Sorry, I do want to come back to the timing, please. Because when do you think you're going to be in production? Is it dependent on what you see in the scoping study? Like you said, it's a relatively simple process. It's mineral sands, right? It's not that complicated or expensive to kind of get there. But what's the timing of this thing being built and in production?
So I want to wait for the scoping study. Just the scoping study being so close out, I don't want to sort of preempt that.
Okay.
That will come out in the scoping study. When we will be shovel ready, what we expect timing will be for construction.
Okay.
What I'll say is
when's that ready?
We're still very aggressive.
When's that ready?
When will that be? Well, this quarter I can say that the scoping study will be
end of Q2. Right. Okay. Fine. Let's take it. Let's bounce over to metals if we can, right? Because this is a technical thing. This is innovation. This is IP. Also all the kind of clever stuff, which sounds fantastic and it is disruptive when it works. So just remind people where you're at with that bit of the process. Slightly behind the mineral stuff, but where are you today?
Yeah, I would say it's actually probably a little bit from a potential build out revenue perspective, slightly in front, just because we have an operating pilot facility producing titanium metal powders, and we've scaled that facility. So when we started IperionX, the focus was on reshoring the titanium and other critical material supply chains from all the way from the minerals, like what we've talked about with Titan, to the metal. And as we've discussed in the past, the last Kroll plant, which produced titanium metal sponge from mineral, shut in 2020. And so the US is fully dependent on imports for titanium metal. Now that's become a big issue because Russia is one of the largest titanium metal producers in the world. The second, one of the other larger producers is China. We're lucky that Japan is still there and exporting titanium metal sponge to the States. But if something ever happened with China in the South China Sea, then you'll have probably that supply chain cut off. And all of a sudden, the US, which uses titanium extensively in the military, that's a big issue. I was touring the F-35 production line outside of Fort Worth, Texas, a few weeks ago with our director, Lorraine Martin, and they use a lot of titanium in those planes, and they're building a lot of them. There was, for a mile, you could see all the F-35s being built. So for us, it's been a big focus to reshore that, but reshore with better and newer technology. So we were able to secure the technology that was developed by Dr. Zach Fung out of the University of Utah, which showed a better process and more sustainable process to manufacture titanium metal powders. And so we've been doing that. Following on from our focus on sustainability, this is a low carbon process, and it's a process where not only can we use mineral eventually once we build our Titan project, but we can use 100% recycled materials or 100% scrap titanium. We are the only process that can do that right now. Any scrap we can use and manufacture spherical titanium metal powders. So we've been talking to a lot of these groups that, again, have been looking at the supply chain and wanting to source US product. And we come to them with that opportunity to source US produced metal products. But in addition, we have these green credentials. We're far more sustainable metal, and we're a premium metal. It's titanium rather than, say, aluminum or stainless steel. So it's got better corrosion resistance. It's got higher strength. It's lighter weight. And so we're able to talk to a lot of these potential offtake partners, customers, strategic partners that, we tick all the boxes: US supply chain, sustainable, premium product. And we're really making a lot of headway on that front as to being able to show people not just powder, but potential parts. So we've 3D printed some components and parts, prototypes, and we continue to do so. And as we announced, we're looking to scale up that production over the next year or so with our titanium demonstration facility, where we're looking to take our production from what is a absolute capacity of 6 tons per annum to 125 tons per annum. And at that rate, you can actually start doing some low production volumes of various parts and really get that product out there to different industries. And we did in our last presentation outline some of the industries we really want to work on. Titanium is lightweight, titanium is corrosion resistant, it's a superior metal to aluminum and stainless steel, and it can be used in automotive. It can be used in luxury goods, where the consumer is wearing something and they can say, well, this is made from a 100% recycled product and a more sustainable process. It can be used in consumer electronics, where you see a lot of aluminum, but also you see stainless steel use now as well. So these are markets where we're actually talking right at the end OEM, who are then marketing to customers. And they're not only looking for something that fulfills their need for a US supply chain, but also looking for something that they can market to a customer, to the mass market. And what the US market wants right now is and what I believe they're going to increasingly want in the future, the consumer wants 100% recycled product. The consumer wants these low carbon sustainable products, and the consumer wants a product which they see is a premium as well, and we can fulfill all that.
Okay, so I'm looking at your business. Okay, we'll forget valuations today, because I think this is not an environment where things can be judged fairly given the market conditions, right? But I'm seeing multiple customer types in multiple verticals with the different products which you're able to pump out. So from the mineral side of things and the rare earths, and obviously over the metal side, so in terms of accessing the market, these are new to you. I guess you're getting a few inbounds, which helps, right? But what's the best way of coming at the market in all its guises? Do you go through someone? have it all in house? And, if say, do you have the skill sets today, or how do you get the skill sets necessary to negotiate the best deals possible for you? Because, you can argue the metal side of things is in some ways more advanced, but it's also new. You've got audiences who have not had access to what you're offering before.
Yeah.
They've got to understand it. They've got to design it into whatever it is that they think that they can use it for. And then, whatever the costs are, they've got to make those decisions there. And then you've got to get other, I guess, more conventional, well-known, supply chain and therefore revenue stream. So how do you come at it? Because you've got two sets of CapEx potentially there as well. So lots of different conversations for you. A lot of work.
Yeah, that's a lot of different conversations. It ties in well together because ultimately in, say, 5 or 10 years' time, you want to have mineral coming out of the ground, selling as byproducts or co-products, the rare earths and the zircon, and then you want that titanium coming through, being processed into titanium metal, and then you want that circular economy of titanium metal, so being able to take all the scrap out of that process and keep it circular. So it works over the longer term. The titanium minerals and metals is one. It's one integrated supply chain. But right now, I can see it's separate. We've got this scrap to titanium metal powder business, and we've got the Titan project, which is a mineral business. We know how to sell minerals quite easily and well, but on the titanium metal side, it is new markets. But we are targeting drop-in applications. And with 3D printing, you can essentially just drop this in. There's tweaks that you need to make, but then you essentially make parts that can drop into supply chains that are not going to disrupt how those supply chains go. So you're making parts that say a 3D that were maybe made out of aluminum or magnesium or stainless steel, and you print them in titanium and they drop in. So there's no change. We try and target those areas where there's not really a change to how we can drop them in there. There's still a big need to go through a design process and all that, and to get sign off from
testing and all of these things, right?
Testing and all that. Testing is something. It's not as stringent as aerospace and defense. What I will say, going back to your first point, is who do you use for this? I've got an excellent team, an outstanding team that I've taken. Some of which were not in minerals, were more mainly in finance or mainly in investing, and we've drawn from people as well that have been in these industries. So we've got some excellent advisors with us, and we've been doing this since the third quarter last year. So we've been in it deep with a few key industries, and so we are breaking new ground here, and so there is some learning that we had early on. But now I think we're in a position where we understand what these potential strategic customers want. We try build, we try target, so that it's just drop-in applications initially, and that makes the negotiations and the discussions far easier, because all of a sudden you're discussing about a part which they're buying, and then they come to you and say, well, what will it cost in titanium? And then you add in the green credentials and you're like, well, okay, we can replace that, we can sell that. And again, we've been lucky to be able to, with our story, to get in at some of the highest levels in some of these organizations. And again, we're deep into discussions with potential partners, but it's not a hard discussion to have. Titanium has got an aura of, it's aerospace, it's high end, it's strong, it's lightweight. So, and then when you overlay, we can make it more sustainable, and we can make it in America. It's actually, once you get in and you start talking that story, it doesn't get too hard to get people very interested. And so we're deep in making prototype parts now, and we hope to have a lot of that out to the market, during this year. And this is another reason why we really want to have the US listing completed, because I believe that it's going to resonate. The minerals, reshoring the minerals resonates with a lot of investors, but some of these products which we're looking to make and some of the customers we're talking with, I think it will resonate a lot with with the retail institutional market once we're able to secure some of those partnerships.
Okay, look, Taso, I appreciate the update. It's kind of like some companies are kind of all quiet on the Western Front, it seems. But
I have been as well, unfortunately. Yeah. But we need to be more active with as the next few months roll on. We have our scoping study, we have our US listing, we have our titanium metal powder production. We definitely want to get out there and tell the story a lot more. It's the market's been probably the right time to be a little bit quiet, but I think there's so much positives. There's so much positive fundamentals in the market in everything that we're doing that we definitely want to get out there and tell the story. And I think as we tell that story and people understand what we've been doing in the background, I really think it's going to blow people away. And I think there's going to be a lot of attention on our story and where we're going and what we're going to build into over the next few years.